Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of That's Rap, your favorite podcast where we talk film and TV production from an independent point of view. I'm one of your hosts, Naomi.
And I'm Annette, and we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about what is it? Wages. Paying people. To pay or
what
not,
they're worth.
Right? To pay or not to pay, or deferred, right?
Or deferred.
Yeah. Because, as independents working with microbudgets, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And how do we have those discussions?
Yeah.
Because remember when there was a time when independent meant anything under like 200,000? Now independent is like 3 million.
Yeah. I don't know how that is considered independent. I don't know. But we definitely going to touch on paying people their worth based on your budget, right? Based on budget.
But then is it their worth?
But it's I know we're talking their creativity, their expertise, their talents, right?
Right.
It's an interesting discussion. That's all I can say, especially for micro budgets, because like you said, independent. It's no longer. We barely making it. We barely got enough.
Are the lights on?
Yeah. It's like you have big studios making independent movies. I don't understand that, but yeah, we have lots to talk about.
Yep. And so, but first we are going to make time for.
It's a good time with you, Annette. Always a good time. Always a good time.
Who be talking?
We be talking.
Who be talking?
We be talking.
So, what's on your mind, Nene?
So, I know in a previous episode, we talked about Real Short, right? It's an app, vertical viewing app, where you're getting like 1 minute dramas, right? Yeah. But here I wanted to talk about a term I hadn't heard until I saw it in the dailies newsletter, bite-sized dramas. So that's basically what's on Real Short, right? And there's another platform as well that has these bite-sized dramas. But what I wanted to kind of touch on today is how these 1 minute videos are really starting to gain momentum across other platforms.
Okay.
So TikTok is heavily considering creating these bite-sized dramas on their platform. And the best way to do it seems to be to produce something, give it out for free. And once you get people once you got them, on the pole, then, well, you know what kind of pole I'm talking about. But once you get them interested, then they're going to start charging. And I thought, if TikTok is doing it, other platforms are going to do it. Apparently, Meta had tried to do something like this before, and QB, you mentioned that in another
Tubi?
QB, the one with the Q.
Oh,
I thought it was Tubi that we talked about, but QB was a platform that apparently had these kind of like bite-sized QUIBI. Remember, it started to gain momentum, and then it just like fizzled out.
Oh, QB. I thought QB was that like that bike pedal.
That's CUB. I know they all sound the same. 2B, QB. Like it's ridiculous. But these bite-sized dramas, I just think that there is definitely a growing demographic. There is a growing need for these.
But what does that say? That
it says exactly that we don't have world that we are in now.
We do not have that attention span.
I mean, I think it's really great that you can make a 1 minute segment of a show, and be able to pull people's attention, because we're so we grew up in the time, with 3 networks, right? So you were in it for the hour or 30 minutes, whatever you were watching, but it does make you want to question, where are we now as a society where we are only consuming things
in bite-sized
portions. So it's wild. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. There is a potential for, I think they said up to 10 billion in this.
Wow.
10 billion. And they are gearing it towards people 35 and over.
Wow.
There is a huge money making potential. So
the Real Short, TikTok are Chinese owned.
Mm-hmm.
The other bite-sized drama, is that also Chinese owned?
I've never heard of that.
Okay.
I've never heard of the platform, so I'm not sure.
This is very interesting.
Yeah. And it's coming here to the US.
Of course it's coming to the US. So, I mean,
we take it in. So I just think it's at least, if nothing else, for all of you independent producers and content creators out there, really consider making these bite-sized dramas.
Yeah, it's a good avenue.
Yeah.
So, yep. That's great to check out.
Yeah. All right.
So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, it's the vegan meat and potatoes. Stick with us. Right. Money, money, money.
We back.
Money. Thanks for returning. So we're talking wages. Pay or not to pay. Wages.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about it.
Okay, so here's my question. Like, what do you think is the biggest misconception independent creatives might have about paying their cast and crew on micro budgets? Like, think back to something like, one of our projects.
So what do I think
is the biggest misconception?
That we got it.
that they have about paying their crew.
I think I don't know if it's a misconception. Like, give me an example. Like, what are you thinking? Because I don't know if we had any misconceptions about paying our crew. We were very diligent on how are we paying our crew, right? Like that. Like we were really, really focused on making sure we pay what we can, because we were working on a super micro.
In stages. Stages, our EP was in charge of that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, but we all talked about it. We all talked about what
blacked that part out.
Because you were focused on like, oh God, I gotta, this is directing. But we talked about all of that. We talked about what the DP would get, because she would reach out to the DP and come back to us. So we had that open communication of what we could be. She knew the budget, and worked with that,
right,
and really make sure to provide fair as much as fair as we could based on our budget. But she always made it clear.
Oh, she was very clear.
Front.
Yeah, very.
And I think that's one of the biggest things is you have to respect your crew enough to be upfront.
Yeah.
About what you can afford to pay, because then you allow that creative to decide whether they want to be a part of the production or not.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, because I think, didn't you say this? Like, because their pay is attached to like their value, right?
Yeah.
And so it's valuing their expertise,
their time,
and their time,
all of it.
Yeah. Like even so when we have our discussions, like we had a conversation yesterday and we're working on this project, and it is a micro budget right now. Straight up told, our DP, like, this time around, it's tight. We hope that you could be a part of it, but we definitely understand. And he's like, nope, I'm ride or die. Yeah. So,
and we're lucky just of who he is, but we also told him how many hours it was going to be, like what kind of day he was going to have.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's really important to communicate all these things,
right? To
give that creative the opportunity to take it all in and then say, do I want this? Do I want this gig? Right? Yeah. It's kind of like what you've been on independent productions, so what they're all willing to offer, and you decide.
Right. And in fact, there was one that I worked on. and I was out to lunch with some friends who are also like professional
Mhm.
crew, right?
Mhm.
And so we were talking about this project, and they were just like, this person's project is like, yeah. And then it got back that he didn't pay on time.
Mm. Crews talk.
Yes.
People talk
And
in
I
this
was just
industry.
like,
Yeah.
what? So then I, in turn, called the producer of the project.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know about nobody else, but my money got a hit. And so she like literally like made sure,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, because you're right, like people talk, you
Yes.
know, and they're just like, girl, you just better make sure you get your money. And like, I'm not about that foolishness. So.
Right. I mean, we worked on a production where we found out that I think the folks on the crew were only getting like $100 or and for 18-hour days. Like it was crazy. It was crazy. And I know you and I were just like, oh, I mean,
Yeah.
I think both of us are still kind of like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And that leaves and it leaves a sour taste in people's mouths if they're going to ever work with you again, because
Mhm.
you are not respecting their time. That was
Yeah.
that's always big for us. Respect their time, respect their talent.
I agree, because I think that, you know, fair wages, whatever that word fair means for you and
Yeah.
your budget,
Yeah.
it is an acknowledgement, right? And it creates a more positive morale on set.
Yeah.
And then also, one of the main things that this business is about
Mhm.
is about relationships.
Yes, it is. It's all about relationships.
Because where you see someone now is not necessarily where they're going to be in 6 months, a year, maybe even tomorrow,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So like, and you just want to make sure like relationships are intact.
Yeah.
And that goes with transparency. And I think that, you know, when we're producing one of our projects, I think that we're really upfront
Yes.
with everything that's going on within the production.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, there, and I know we may touch on this later about deferred or how else.
I was actually getting ready to start
because
with this.
sometimes you can't pay them money,
Yeah.
right? Because the
Yeah.
budget isn't there.
Yeah.
But you may pay them in other ways, right?
Mhm.
But this is where once again communication comes into play. Have those discussions prior to production.
Oh yeah.
I know one of our sets, we knew we weren't going to be able to pay the PAs, but we made sure that food was on point
And hot. It wasn't pizza. It was like,
it was in those, you had the carafes heating it up at the bottom.
Yes.
Like, we made sure that, yes, even though we can't pay some of you,
yeah,
we really wanted to make the environment
Yeah.
inviting. If we had PAs where we were just like, what do you want to learn?
Yep.
Okay, so you go work with so and so, so you can get that experience.
Mhm.
I mean, it's having that open communication, that level of transparency.
Yeah. Yeah.
That helps to make the production a very cohesive
Right.
environment.
We had a really good on
We did.
stages.
We
Had a really
did.
good like energy.
Yeah.
Really cool
Yeah.
energy. Remember that time, I think his name was Tech, when he came in, he was a
Yes.
little bit late. And it was like, Tech.
Yeah. I mean, it was that
good.
energy, and I
Mhm.
think that's why the PAs, even though they weren't getting paid, thank you Temple University.
Yeah. shout out.
Even though they weren't getting paid, they showed up.
Yeah.
They were there. They learned some things. They got to do
Right.
things that they probably never thought that they were able to do. I mean, we had PAs with dialogue. They became actors.
Listen.
Didn't even know that they were doing that
Listen.
day. So,
Shout out Jacqueline. That was my girl.
Yeah.
So here's another question for you.
Mhm.
When is deferred compensation acceptable, and how can producers ensure transparency and trust with their team?
I still come down to communication. You have to communicate these things at the beginning. We had to defer payment when we were working in Morocco.
Yeah,
right?
I will never do that again. I was so stressed out. I'm not even kidding you.
Right, because you're just like, wait. We have to make sure we have the money. We have to make sure we have the money so we can pay them. It's having that communication. It's having those discussions ahead of time. If they're down with it, great. If they're not, that's okay too. You're gonna have to work to find someone who is willing to, hey, I'm going to get this pay 3 months from now. Right?
Yeah.
I think for us, it helped that we were taking them to Morocco.
Right. Room and board, paid everything. Seriously.
I think just that whole experience, the experience of going into a different country and shooting there helped sell the deferment.
Yeah. Wait, remind me, what was the deferment? Did we give them half up front and then?
No, it was the full amount at
the end?
Like 3 months after the shoot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So once again, it comes down to communicating these things because that builds the transparency and the trust.
Yeah.
And
you
then communicate up front and people know where they stand.
Right.
And they have all the information for them to make the decisions that they need to. That builds transparency. That builds trust. Even if they said no, we know that if we needed them in the future, they would still consider us because we built that trust and and relationship.
And I think we did with the team that we
we
with
have
our
the
team. Yeah,
we have
the girl
team.
The girl code team. So let's talk about some of the creative solutions that we came up with. If we couldn't pay our crew top dollar or the talent, what did we do? Like, I know we did like lifts, made sure people got to and from at different times. We had a variety of food.
Oh, yes.
And also one time we even had Airbnb. And one of our crew that was driving in from like Pottstown or Reading or something like that.
Yeah, he stayed there.
He stayed there. So we do a lot of different things when the money, because we know that the money isn't there.
We knew that it was, they knew that we were working off of, as I said in a previous episode, a hope and a prayer of a budget. But yeah, it's finding creative ways to not only acknowledge their efforts and what they're bringing to the table to help the production, but just, I think, making the environment a fun, engaging, and learning environment, right? Where people, you may know, you may be a DP, but hey, I never knew that about, I don't know, another area. I just think we welcomed people to use that opportunity to learn things.
Yeah, especially Errol, who was a PA. And then we found out that he did set design or he was interested in it.
Ciao.
And so we opened the door and we said, come on in, brother. And
welcome.
He did, I think, scene from was episode 2, and then the cafe scene.
Yeah, that cafe scene was everything.
That's
a favorite.
That was like my hallmark moment.
Yes, yeah. But it's giving them, that was an opportunity. He said, I really enjoy set design, and we were like, I wasn't even sure exactly what that entailed.
Yeah.
But we were just like, okay, you tell us.
Right.
What do you think we need here to make this home look a certain way or
whatever?
Because
when we were setting it up, he's like, if somebody's doing a live and baking, they wouldn't put that like that. And then we're just like, all right, thank you.
Guide us.
Yeah. I didn't want to do it anyway. So here.
but we created an environment that even though he may not have necessarily gotten compensated money-wise, he was able to grow his talents.
Yeah.
We allowed him that environment to really just explore his own talents, right? There on our sets, there is no, you can't talk to the DP.
No,
there is none of that stuff.
Right.
And maybe that, I don't know, maybe it happens in the larger productions because it's larger productions and it's so many people. But I do love these in the independent vibe because it really gives you an opportunity to learn things. You can talk to people about, like, I don't know, what camera is that? Like, why do you use that camera? It's just, there's different ways.
And I think also, touching on Errol and the fact that this business is relationship is because when working with him as the director of stages, I saw his work ethic. I saw how he stepped in. I saw how he was willing to sit in this seat as an extra, then this seat, and then with you.
He flowed with us. He flowed our crazy.
When I was line producing Frat Pie, I knew that we needed an assistant for the set deck. And his application or his interest came across my desk, and I was like, Errol. And I remember the name because not too many people named Errol. And I told the associate producer, hire him, point blank, get him.
Yeah,
and this was a paying gig, and I wanted him to have it.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
Yeah,
there you go. That's another way, right?
Yeah.
If you can't pay them on a project that you're working on, chances are you're going to remember them.
Yep.
You're going to make sure that they get paid someplace else. So that's another really great creative way. To build that relationship and get folks paid.
Okay. So our producer is freaking out.
I know, he's like, stop. Okay, enough.
So we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in a sec.
Yep.
Stay tuned.
The comedy of Annette Burgess.
Thanks for sticking around. We really appreciate it.
Welcome back.
So we were talking about wages.
Yeah.
Money. Oh, what was that? Where the money resides, where the money resides, where the money resides. To pay or not to pay or deferred. For me, I think that deferred is too daggone stressful. I like to.
You gonna get your money.
Yeah.
You gonna get your money. Yeah.
From us the last time, it was just way too stressful, especially when it's it causes rift between us because we're all stressed out from not sleeping. But understanding
it's an option.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
It's an option, and most people they do use it. I see it on film.org.
Yeah.
I see it in these Facebook or the social media groups.
And contracts matter. Also, only because you have something
deal memos, letters of agreement.
Memos. Yeah. But you were talking about just quickly seeing posts of new opportunities, new productions, but people are just like, we need you to have all of this experience.
Yeah, and your own equipment.
And your own equipment for this production, and we're not paying you anything.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, so what am I, as the creative, you want on your production going to get out of it? And I think those people really need to consider finding other creative ways to compensate in some way.
Right.
Not necessarily money, but in other ways, just work out something so that creative that's working on your production is getting something out of it too.
Yeah. And also I think that sometimes indies, I know we're wrapping up, but I think that sometimes independent filmmakers and creatives, we lose sight that this is our baby. This is not that person's baby. Right. So we are the ones that sacrifice, not someone else.
Yeah.
But I do agree that if the budget is really closer to zero, then you just need to share that and let the pieces fall where they may. Because guess what? There's somebody who's going to be like, oh, I still want to do it, even though I'm not getting paid.
Yeah.
But for me, I ain't got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Right. No, if it's an opportunity for you to learn.
Yeah.
And that's how you're stepping into that production. Awesome.
Right.
Right. But transparency, trust, communication.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. I like it.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us for another episode of That's a Wrap. Don't forget to like and subscribe, like for real. And also, hit us up in the comments. Share your stories.
Yeah.
Of
what's your micro budget look like and how you maneuver.
Pay for play, or whatever that's called. And follow us on our socials. Let's stay connected. Let's continue to stay connected.
Yep. Sounds good. Great talk, girl.
All right.
So
that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. See you next time.